Hey guys, Suarez Digital here. First off, thank you so much for 182 subscribers. It really means the world to me, and I will continue to make more wholesome content for you all. Many of you may not know, but I grew up as a first-generation immigrant. My parents were also very strict, which means I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I didn't have cable, and I never had the latest video games because my parents thought they were too, violent. So, I spent most of my time playing the exact same PC games. Wild, I know. I also spent a lot of time watching the same exact TV shows. And since I was poor and I couldn't afford cable, I spent all of that time watching KPBS. These shows had such good morals that helped build the person you see today. And they taught me to always be myself, no matter how unpopular it is. Now, I will take that lesson to heart and say something so brave and controversial. Sonic 3D Blast was actually a good game.
Boo! You stink!
Alright. And Caillou did nothing wrong. I don't think Caillou needs an introduction, as he's possibly one of the most hated characters to ever be created. When I ask people why they hate Caillou, they say it's because he's a whiny, entitled, narcissistic, sociopathic, and spoiled brat that gets everything he wants. Even on YouTube, there are countless videos where people express their undying hatred towards Caillou, ranging from vloggers, comedians, Family Guy, heck, even BuzzFeed weighed in with a video called Moms Share Their Undying Hatred for Caillou. It got so much attention that even the official Caillou YouTube channel left a comment. We are definitely living in the most exciting timeline. Speaking of comments, like a person of culture that I am, I always go to the comment section. And here, I found people saying things such as,
I think Caillou is a bad example. I'm the only 5-year-old that Caillou is a bad. I mean, seriously.
All I can say is that Caillou is memorable. Memorable for being a balloon-faced lollipop light bulb head baby.
A week ago, I also hated Caillou. However, there was something else that bothered me about Caillou, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Then one day, the YouTube algorithm blessed me with this video called Caillou Being a Brat Compilation, which pretty much highlighted Caillou's worst traits. Or did it? Little did I know that after watching this video, my life would be completely changed forever. I actually can't tell what disturbs me more. Is it the blatant propaganda? Or the fact that a grown individual would want to actually beat up a 4-year-old if they were real? So, using this video, I'm gonna prove once and for all why Caillou is actually misunderstood and put an end to all this anti-Caillou propaganda. First off, we begin with Caillou building a tower of blocks. Caillou does get mad, as anyone would in his position. I mean, how would you feel if something you worked so hard for was rendered meaningless in less than a second? This is just like trying to find a job after college. And at first, Caillou reacts by saying,
"Don't do that, Rosie!"
And while yes, his voice is a little whiny, he continues to mind his own business and play on his own, only to still be antagonized by his sister. Once again, he gets mad.
You broke my robe!
But rather than stay and argue, he removes himself from the situation. He sets his boundaries, to which Rosie antagonizes him by stealing his toys. Most of you don't even let your own siblings play with a controller unplugged. And how does Caillou handle this situation? Caillou goes to his mother for help, emphasizing that he does not want to play with Rosie, setting his boundaries.
Mommy! Rosie won't stop bothering me!
Maybe she just wants to play with you.
But I don't want to play with her!
Caillou, I'm busy and I can't be solving your problems all the time.
But Mommy!
You and Rosie have to learn how to work out your own problems.
No, we can't!
Caillou?
I mean, you have your 4-year-old kid who comes asking you for help and you tell him to, take care of it yourself. I mean, you'll get what you wish for. I do agree that his tone here is rather whiny, and in his defense, he is desperate. He is out of options, and the one person he should be able to go to and help mediate with all this just shrugs off his problems, making him feel that his problems and feelings are not valid. And I know many of you guys are celebrating because you see Caillou as nothing more than a waste of space, and you're probably thinking, haha, this is what he deserves. Even his parents don't love him. But honestly, I think this is kind of sad. And I want to note that everyone says they hate him because he always gets his way. But I think this alone proves that he doesn't always get his way.
Later on, we see Caillou go to his room to read a book. He is in his room, a place where he can be relaxed and unbothered, removing himself from Rosie's menacing presence.
Caillou was happy reading his book all by himself without Rosie bothering him.
You can clearly hear the door open. Rosie entered his room, his space, his sanctuary. He gives her a warning.
Go away, Rosie.
She doesn't listen. And by Rosie jumping on his bed after he told her to go away, Rosie chose violence. And I want to make it clear, what Caillou is doing is not okay. He is completely in the wrong of pushing and hurting Rosie. But I ask you, what other choice did he have? He told Rosie to stop, he removed himself from the stressful situation, he went to his mom for help, being completely dismissed, and now she enters his safe space. And unlike many real-life kids, violence and aggression was not his first action, but his last resort. And in all of this, Caillou does lie.
Caillou, did you make Rosie cry?
No.
And I want to emphasize that Caillou lying is not okay, but understand that he did this out of fear because he was already shown that his problems do not matter. And he knows that his parents possibly wouldn't listen or take his side. And that's how kids are. And let's be honest, some of you actually hit your siblings, then lied to your parents claiming you didn't. Caillou didn't even hit her. He just pushed her out of his room. And this next part is completely relatable. Caillou wants cookies.
I want chocolate chip cookies.
Cookies are for dessert, Caillou.
You can have a cookie after you finish your vegetables.
Now, as an adult, we all know this is BS. Snacks are anytime food. Am I right? And for crying out loud, we eat cereal for breakfast. Some of you lazy bums also drink beer whenever you want, so I don't see how it's unfair that Caillou just wants cookies.
I love vegetables.
Eat my vegetables, Daddy.
Like him or hate him, you have to admit that Caillou is pretty witty. In this next clip, Caillou isn't being whiny at all, but rather, he's crying and expressing his frustration from being bullied by Jim.
Caillou, what's wrong?
He doesn't want to play with me.
In a world full of gyms, be a Caillou. Also in this next clip, I really have no defense.
The circus isn't till tomorrow.
No, it's today. I got all dressed.
Come on, Caillou. Come downstairs and help me make breakfast.
No, I don't want to. Silly old car. Silly.
Caillou was in a very bad mood because he wasn't going to the circus.
Caillou, stop all this racket.
Even Caillou's daddy was starting to get angry.
Yes, he's being whiny and acting like a child because, well, he is a child.
So in that entire video, only the last minute showed Caillou being a brat. But the rest, well, I think he's a victim. Sure, his voice does whine,
I don't like you.
and he throws tantrums,
Silly old car. Silly.
but as for the rest of the arguments, well, I don't see them. I just see a flawed character that makes mistakes and then learns from them. And before I get labeled as the Antichrist, I want to say that in modern times, people will go out of their way to defend characters like Sasuke, Dabi, and even their favorite toxic content creators, despite the fact that they're psychotic murderers and war criminals. But my questions still remain unanswered. Why do people hate Caillou? What's so different about Caillou that makes people hate him? Do we hate him because it's the popular thing to do? Is it because he gets everything he wants? Is it because he never gets in trouble? Is there something beyond the whiny voice and the tantrums? Why is it that the minute that Caillou makes an honest and humanistic mistake, all mercy goes out the window, despite the fact that we are more forgiving for toxic and problematic characters? Then it hit me. We don't hate characters like Yuno, Sebastian, Sasuke because, well, they are exaggerated character tropes. They exhibit rare and extreme cases with specific problems that are not meant to be commonly relatable, but we hate Caillou because he is relatable. The problems he faces are very real and are ones that we have also faced ourselves. We have been in the situations where we have also whined, complained, talked back, and even fought with our siblings. And even Caillou does bad things. When we look at Caillou, it's like looking at a mirror. However, the difference between Caillou and us is how the world reacted to us.
Caillou, why did you do that to Rosie?
I don't like Rosie.
Why not?
Rosie doesn't play with me.
But she's only a baby. She's just too little to play with you now. It's not easy being a big brother, is it? But now that you are a big brother, you can protect Rosie, since she's so small.
But let's be real, our parents would have spanked and punished us for doing this. Some of us did this and got worse punishments, but apparently not Caillou. And at first, some would say that his parents are spineless for letting him go unpunished because he's a spoiled brat that always gets what he wants. However, this statement is wrong, and I'll break it down why. So rather than immediately punish Caillou, his dad asks him why he pinched Rosie. Caillou gives his reasoning. Then, his dad takes his time to explain and educate Caillou on why he cannot have what he wants. And in the end, Caillou did not get what he wanted. And his dad took the time to educate him. He allowed Caillou to make a mistake and to learn from it without being punished because he knows that Caillou is a growing and developing 3-year-old. That's something many of us never got. We were also little kids. We were immediately punished for making mistakes. We had to know right and wrong immediately without having any wiggle room to make those mistakes. And if we ever did ask any questions, it would be considered rude, talking back, and we would be labeled as rebels for questioning the adults. We call his parents spineless for not giving him a beating. But honestly, if his parents were real, we would be applauding them for not punishing and beating Caillou, and for taking their time to treat him like a person. Here's my last and final example. Caillou learns the word stupid and uses it to belittle his friend Clementine.
You're stupid. No, I'm not.
And he then teaches it to Rosie, who is caught using it by his mother.
Rosie, where did you learn that word?
However, note that Rosie does not get punished. Then, Clementine's mom calls Caillou's mom to let her know what happened. And now that she knows what Caillou has done, this is the approach she takes.
Caillou, Rosie's been saying a word that's not very nice. And Clementine's mommy just called. She was telling me about your afternoon in the park.
I didn't mean to.
I think you owe Clementine an apology.
Can I call Clementine, Mommy?
And notice, she didn't punish him at all. She lets him know how hurtful that word is, and then even notes that Caillou should apologize, to which he easily agrees to. How about you? Do you remember what happened the first time you used words you weren't supposed to? For most of us, we were probably smacked immediately. Or we were warned from our own friends' experiences. And that's just how we learned. So, unlike our parents, Caillou's parents understand that he is a human being with emotions, and he needs to learn how to channel them. Many of us never got that. Caillou's world is a perfect and ideal one for Caillou and for anyone else. And for further proof, look no farther than the opening theme song that I believe does the best job at explaining this. Caillou is just a 4-year-old kid who likes exploring something new each day. His world is constantly turning and changing, but with his mommy and daddy, the 2 people in his life that he knows he can trust and will support him, he knows he'll be okay. And finally, we should all be able to relate to the last line. Growing up is not so tough, except when I've had enough, because we've all been there. You have no idea how many times I've heard the phrase, "I'm tired of adulting," which is basically saying the same thing, but in the end, it is manageable as long as we have support. Caillou lives in an ideal world where he is allowed to make mistakes and learn from them without being punished or ridiculed. He is allowed to explore and ask questions. He is allowed to not know everything, and he is allowed to be human. So I like to believe that we all learned a valuable lesson from all this. We need to learn to face our demons, not run away from them. And we need to stop being haters and hating on Caillou just because he got everything we always ever wanted. So I think when it comes down to it, we all have a little bit of Caillou right in here. And who knows, maybe down the road, we'll do a live stream where we watch every single Caillou episode together. And from there, you can make up your own minds. Wow, that felt really great getting it out there. And you know what? I feel more empowered to speak the truth even more now. Therefore, I will no longer hold back. My next unpopular opinion is Super Smash Bros. Does not have enough Fire Emblem characters.